to react to over the last few days. People have been commenting on various videos and some opinions about Ange, about the Arsenal game. So we'll start off with this one. I think this one was talking about, you know, potentially fans becoming a bit less patient for Ange or losing faith in Ange. This is from Positively Bobby. He said, "It's like walking out of a movie 10 minutes in. Fans need to stop playing football god, thinking they know everything inside the club and thinking they know more than the actual people running the show. If we had the same quality and depth as City or Arsenal, then there's a little more room to ask questions, but we're extremely young. We've brought in quality that haven't played much yet. Let the man work. It's not an overnight gig. He needs the right players, have them long enough to adjust and believe in the system." Are we fans guilty of judging Ange too early?
100%. 100%. I agree to a certain extent with what he's saying. Spurs fans obviously have a lot of past traumas to deal with, including myself, including yourself. I think we all have past traumas that we're
PTSD.
Yeah.
Well, what did Danny Rose say? I think he said there's some sporting directors have a lot to answer for some of the players they brought.
He did
to
say
this
that.
club.
He did say that.
And he's probably talking about Ng, probably Kudu,
all the rubbish that we bought under Poch.
Sissoko maybe.
But what I'm saying is that
Janssen.
all the past traumas all relate to our opinions today, to a lot of people's anyway. And we saw how it went with this one, we saw how it went with that one, and we're all expecting it to go, or not expecting it, but we all think it could go the same way under Ange Postecoglou, and it's up to him and the team to prove us wrong.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the overall sentiment is correct. I think he still needs more time. And I think people just, you know, a few dodgy results at the beginning of a season. But people forget Poch's second season, the first 4 games was 3 draws and a loss. That was the first 4 games, and then we really clicked into gear. So that might happen early on. I even remember, I mean, I'm not saying we're that level, but I even remember like in Pep's second season when they were Centurions, I think they were Centurions in the second season, they started the season with a 1-1 draw at home to Everton. Like it didn't click in the first game. And then obviously they went on to win, I think, a record point. So like just because it's the first 3 games, you know, we haven't got the points maybe it deserves, doesn't mean the whole season's going to be like that. Yeah. Stevie C335 says, "How on earth can we say Archie Gray is a clever signing? Bellingham only cost 15 million when he left the Championship for Dortmund. Gray doesn't even get in the team. It was a very weird transfer window that didn't address the necessary issues. Ange said the front three isn't good enough. He then signed Werner and Odegaard after signing Johnson last summer. I've neglected to mention Solanke, but it's blindingly obvious that none of those guys are anywhere near good enough. I also don't get the whole he's 18 or 19, so he's not ready thing. They may never be ready. All of our signings are cheapish punts on guys that haven't proven it. Solanke has proven it, but only for a few months. I'm pretty certain we've cleared out a load of deadwood and signed some more of it in Johnson, Odegaard, and maybe Gray and Solanke. Are Johnson, Odegaard, Gray and Solanke going to be deadwood in a couple of years, he's saying?
Well, Werner, yes. Werner won't be here past this year's season. He's just on loan. So
he's saying Johnson and Odegaard.
I mean, the jury is definitely out on Brennan, for sure. He got 15 goal contributions last season, which is a great start. But, you know, you need to see him impacting games a lot more. Odegaard, again, the jury's out. He's a young player, 19 years old, coming into this club. 1 season in the Premier League for Burnley. We need to see how it goes with him. But he's definitely got a case because, you know, look at the wingers we were linked with coming into this window, and we've come out with Timo Werner on loan and Odegaard. It's definitely, you know, it's not exactly 2 signings that tells you that we're trying to take the club onto the next level. And when you're looking at really trying to improve that front line, I think we have improved it with Dom Solanke coming in. Odegaard, you know, he's not nowhere near the finished article yet. He's got probably a high ceiling, but you know, having a high ceiling doesn't mean that you're ready to kick into gear right now. And I think that's what he's alluding to.
In terms of the stuff with Odegaard, Gray, and, you know, Bergvall, I think the problem with them at the moment is they're so young and we've seen so little of them so far. It's hard to pass judgment. And I think people are, you know, turn to other youngsters who maybe have looked promising and have made the grade and are putting that assumption on these players. But you know, you got to look at Arsenal. How young were Martinelli and Saka when Arteta took over? They were probably teenagers when he took over.
Yeah.
And you know, look at how good they've turned out to be. So if we really believe in these players, there's nothing to from what we've seen. I think personally, there's nothing to suggest they can't really make an impact. Now the question is, are they ready this season to be part of a team that's going to really challenge for a title or something like that? Probably not. Can they be part of a squad that make top 4? I think so. I don't see why not. So I'm comfortable with that at the moment, and I'm willing to give them time. And I think, as I've said, in terms of the front line, I think Solanke's I think he's a big improvement up front. You've still got Son on the left wing, whether people want to say if he suits that position or not. I still think he can get a lot of goal contributions there. And if all Brennan has to do is improve on those 15 goal contributions, and for me, he's done his job. I think that's what he needs to do.
He needs to impact games more. He really does need to impact games more.
If a player like him can get more than 15 goal contributions, I would say he's done his job. I would say that's a really good return for a young winger like him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, if he ends this season, let's say, with 15 plus goal contributions, if he improves on last season, I'll say, yeah, it's a very good season from him. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. Like, when you're thinking about signing Brennan Johnson for 50 million, like, if I said to you now, knowing what Brennan has done for Spurs in the last year, saying we can buy Brennan Johnson for 50 million, you wouldn't say yes.
No, I'd probably rather go for someone else, to be honest. But doesn't mean he can't be even more effective. And who's to say we bring another winger and they definitely get more than goal contributions than he got? No guarantees. But no, I think aesthetically, he's not the most pleasing winger on the eye. Sometimes he can be very predictable, very runs in a straight line. That's his only thing. But it doesn't matter if you're effective, and I think he has proven to be effective.
Yeah, he's just had a poor start to the season. I mean, he came on and did well against Newcastle, but he's been poor the other 2 games.
Got an assist, kind of, or goal, yeah. He was poor in the other 2 games. Cree1L me says, Ange Ball is very demanding tactic, and we are signing kids for a reason. Like their physical condition are more fresh without any serious injury in the past. They are more likely to maintain their performance in this level for the long term. And also, lots of the senior ones wouldn't want to play in this system because it will shorten their career. Do you reckon that's a big reason why we're going for younger players, because they're fresher, they can maybe handle the physical demands? And puts on them more than maybe more experienced players.
Yeah, 100%. You saw where we went with the team when we last did this kind of, buying all young talent from around Europe. When you're looking at, a young Jan Vertonghen, a young Toby Alderweireld, or not that young, but you're looking at, Harry Kane coming through the ranks. You're looking at Dele Alli, signed him as an 18-year-old from MK Dons. Danny Rose, it took him a while to break in. Kyle Walker, we were buying young talent from around England and Europe, and that didn't exactly end badly. Well, it kind of did because we didn't win anything. But if we can replicate what we did under Poch and go a step further, literally just one step further, you're talking about the best Tottenham team of all time. Danny Rose was talking in this interview as well, and he said he came out the Man United away game last year. He was sat with the fans, and he was saying to his friends that he thinks this Tottenham team, could get there eventually. But I think it's too soon to talk about that happening this season. It's a learning curve. It's a growing curve. And I like the direction that we're going in. I just feel like we need more. So in terms of the young players, we have to have young players. We had one of the oldest squads in the Premier League a couple of years ago. We had to do this for the future of the club.
Exactly, and I think it's a good direction. Obviously, I think I'd like more, but I think overall it's still been a positive window in my opinion. It's more positive than negative, as much as I would have liked more from it. Maxter86 says, I usually like Brains, but he's been on Basuma's balloons. I can promise you no coach on earth, from the little league to senior citizens, want their team to give up 70% possession and they will win with one chance. That's what you resort to when you get dominated. Insane take. This is what he was saying in response to when we were talking about our style of play and we were talking about our start to the season, and he was making the argument that it's not that we're not getting this much possession because we're playing well. He was arguing that teams are giving us this possession as a tactic so they could counter-attack on us and rely on us, not taking our chances or restricting us, and then they can take their chances, and that's the reason we're having so much possession. And he's saying, that's crazy because no team would want to give up 70% possession. That can't be a tactic that over the long term would be positive.
I saw this comment and I laughed at it because when you were organising the panel show and Brains was the first person to say he's in, I was like, oh boy, it's all going to go off here. I haven't seen any of the panel, but judging by this comment, it looked like Brains was saying a lot that, same stuff he's been saying in the WhatsApp group. And I get it from a certain extent. I just feel like he's just way over the top with it, way over the top. And it can't be a plan to just basically rely on Tottenham missing their chances. Surely that's not a plan from other teams.
No, that's not a good plan. It's not for me. Some of the chances we missed against Leicester and Newcastle, it's not a plan to just rely on us missing those chances to win the game. And I know we did end up missing, and they did win the game, and it worked in their favour. But I don't think it's part of the plan for these teams to allow us so much possession, allow us to dominate them so much, and allow us to create these chances in the hope that they get a chance and they take it. I don't think that's a good plan. And I think a lot of it is to do with us forcing them to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And when you look at moving further into the season with Solanke in the 9, Sonny on the left, you've got two deadly finishers there that will, if you give them chances, they will score goals.
Exactly. And I think if we keep creating the level of chance we will end up scoring.
Oh, here's Brains in the chat.
What's he
saying? Said, I said that because we are playing so well in ball domination that teams are sitting against us. You can't deny that. Yeah, teams are sitting.
Right, but teams are sitting against us because we're so good, because we are dominating so well. But that should be a praise for us rather than a criticism.
It's like teams are showing us respect.
Exactly. You don't do you don't do that unless we're good. You know what I mean? And yes, we need to combat that now that teams are starting to pay us respect. I understand that level, but I don't think you can dismiss the fact that we're also being shown respect for a reason.
Teams are coming to us not to lose rather than to beat us.
Yeah, at the moment. Well, but
they are beating us.
They are beating us. They're coming to restrict us. That's their number one. The goal at the moment is not to try and create chances themselves, but their main thing is to restrict Tottenham and then try and get some counter-attacks. That's the level, and that's where we want to be at. We want teams to do that so we can pen them in, and then we can assert ourselves on the game. Dwayne Cooper 2297 says, with the ball and attacking, we have no defensive structure to avoid being played through the middle when the opposition team is on the counter and transition. Maybe it's a lack of focus on players, players' part, but it's worrying trend that we have not solved. I think there is definitely some truth to that, which I've definitely banged on about this channel, where when we are defending, we're not very good, to be honest, and we're a bit all over the place when we're dropping deep, and we don't seem to be very organised, and that is a big problem, and that's something that Ange should definitely be sorting. It seems at the moment that Ange's priority is getting us in a position where every game we're capable of creating chances, and we're capable of dominating the game, and we're capable of asserting ourselves on the opposition. That seems to be his priority, and I don't mind that too much. But at some point, we're going to have to deal with the fact that when teams are in a mode in the game and it will happen in every game, because we're playing in the Premier League, and where teams are in modes in the game where they are on top and they're getting players forward and they are forcing us back a bit, we seem to be very unstructured and very disorganised, and that is a problem, and that is something that will keep costing us goals, I think.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating because it feels like we do have the personnel there in the back line and the goalkeeper. You're really happy with the personnel there, but there's a clear structural and tactical issue that he needs to sort out ASAP, because we're not even if we could create 10 chances a game, we're not going to put away all our chances all the time, as it's shown in the first 3 games of the season. And in those games, we're basically saying we're not going to take any points from them.
Well, I mean, is it a better tactic to make sure that you're getting as many chances as possible to increase your chance of scoring.
You need the best of both worlds.
Of course, and that's when you hit City levels.
Yeah, but we've got the personnel to do it. It's a tactical issue that we're, this defensive structure that we've got, the goals that we're conceding at the moment are like schoolboy stuff at times. And like that should never be happening.
Yeah, agreed. And that's something that we'll definitely have to focus on. But it seems at the moment his priority is focusing on getting us in a position where we can score 2 or 3 times
Why can't you
a game.
focus on both, though? Why does it have to be just focusing on that or just focusing on that?
I wouldn't say it's one at a time. I'm sure we do some defensive. I mean, I assume so, but on judging
like
on the pitch, it doesn't look like it. But I would say the focus should be on that because that's what's going to get us in position to win more games. If we concede the odd goal and win the game 3-1, then it won't matter we've conceded that goal. The most important thing is we keep creating these chances, and that's the most difficult thing to get right. That's why it's when you see in the Premier League and you see teams set up and you see teams how they play, the most difficult thing is getting your team in a position where they can consistently create chances. That's the hardest thing, which is why Man City play the way they do a lot of the time, which is why Arsenal, especially before last season, were playing the way they do, because the hardest thing is getting your team into a well-functioning machine that can create chances consistently. Any team any manager, not any manager, but a lot of managers who aren't at the top level can organise a team to defend right, and which is why you got these firefighters, Premier League managers, who all their first things to do when they come into their teams is, get organised at the back, defend compactly, drop deep, low block, all this kind of stuff. Your Pulises, your Allardyce, your Hodgsons, all these. That's why that's their first thing. Because that's when you're battling down to the bottom, the easiest thing to fix is the defence. It's really hard when you've got teams down at the bottom to implement an attacking structure, because that's the hardest thing to implement. It takes time, it takes relationships with the players. You need to be working on that consistently to get your team to a period where they're effortlessly opening teams up and controlling games. That's the hardest thing to do, which is why managers don't come in and necessarily do that straight away. That's why he's focusing on that mostly. And I think once we get to a stage where we're playing beautiful football and we're scoring goals, then you can work on tightening those defences and making adjustments. I think that's probably how he's thinking.
I don't get that whatsoever. I think that's just excuses. Like, there is no reason for us to be conceding the level of goals that we have and the quality of goals that we're conceding. There was just no, like, how many times are our players just free? Like we pointed out in a video that we did after the first game of the season, like, how many players are just completely free at our back post? Like, there's no excuses for that.
But you see that in all the early parts of Pep's reign, Poch's reign, Arteta's reign, Klopp's reign. At the early parts, similar to the stage we are at, they were conceding very silly goals. They were conceding really stupid goals, you can say. And a lot of fans would say, wow, you're so open and all this kind of stuff. You're conceding all these silly goals. Why don't you tighten up your defence? And they didn't. They doubled down on their way of playing until it got to a stage where, okay, we're actually really good going forward now, and we're going to create loads of chances because it's second nature to these players. Now we can work on actually tightening up the defensive and not conceding these silly goals, because we know even if we tighten it up, with the system going forward is now second nature, that they can score goals even when we make other adjustments. And I think that's what Postecoglou's thinking at the moment.
Like, even if you tighten up the defence a little bit, and I get what you're saying, you definitely saw that at the early stages of the Pep and the Klopp and the Arteta eras and stuff like that, but I just feel like it just takes small tweaks to make our defensive structure a lot better. Just these small tweaks. You can even drop I'm not saying drop all the way deep like a Sam Allardyce and a Roy Hodgson and stuff, but just that tiny bit deeper, so you don't get caught out as easily as we're getting caught out. And it shouldn't take away that much from our attacking phase. Those
little inches can make a big difference. The reason we squeeze up so high and we do that is to put as much pressure on the opposition as possible. As soon as you drop back a bit, all of a sudden you give them more outs, you allow them a bit more of the game, and then all of a sudden you're in a bit more trouble. Whereas at the moment, we're turning up to 100 and we're really racking it up. We're putting them under pressure. And yes, we're getting caught out sometimes, but by and large, we're limiting the opposition to minimal chances. And that's the
But the chances that they do get are really good chances. And they're chances that we shouldn't be giving up.
And so then we'll work on getting those chances to be lesser. But at the moment,
what stage do we work on that then?
Once we've perfected the attack.
And how are we going to perfect the attack when we don't have good enough players in the attack to perfect it?
That's a different question. Different question. Look, and we'll have to live and die by that. But I'm banking on the fact that these players, once the system's more ingrained, will look a lot better. Hopefully, that's the plan, I guess. In this system, we'll see. If we look, we know Solanke can score. We know Son's a great player. We know Johnson can get goals and assists. So so there are players there who can do it for us. Where are we? Belgian Hotspur says, personally, he's just talking about the North London derby. He says, personally, I would start Sarr in the 8 and then move Decky inside if necessary. We need someone to help Biss with the counter-attacks. So he's saying...
I know that I've spoken about this so many times, and he's mainly been playing in the central areas, Kulusevski. But maybe for this one game, would you even toy with the idea of playing Kulusevski out on the right?
And to be fair, he started out on the right in the game last year and was brilliant. But the reason I wouldn't do that is because I think if Arsenal are going to play the way we anticipate, we need all the creativity we can muster in that centre.
But Kulusevski playing on the right, he is cutting in a lot inside into the central areas.
That's a problem. We need to stay wide. We need to create as much space as possible, and that means Johnson or Odebest staying and Son staying really wide, so that stretches the Arsenal defence.
But maybe instead of Porro coming into the central areas, you have him occupy the wide areas, and then Kulusevski tuck inside.
You could do that. That would mean adjusting the system, and that would, maybe he could do that for this game.
That's what I would like to see.
I think if he's not going to adjust the system, I think we need Decky in the middle. Physically he can compete with what Arsenal got to offer, whether it be Havertz or Jorginho, or I don't know who's going to play in the 8, or they play double pivot, but. I'm looking at them on the counters, and if we can make sure that Jorginho is not getting those passes off, and we can make sure that Havertz, if he's going to drop in, isn't getting space. If we can hound them and press them, then if we're going to have majority of the possession, we're going to be a lot better off with someone like Decky and Maddison together than someone like Sarr. I'll say maybe Bentancur, because I think he's better on the ball than Sarr, so I'd maybe have him more than Sarr, to be honest. But I think we need to be brave in this one. I think if we're brave and we just stick with what's been working best, which has been Decky and Maddison and Bissouma, I think that's really going to pay off dividends. And yes, there might be the odd time where Arsenal do counter on us, but I think we're going to benefit much more in possession. And it also means you got Decky linking up the likes of Solanke, playing in the ball to feet, playing those little 1-2s as well, and that could really benefit us. And I think it's going to overwhelm Arsenal a bit more than having a Bentancur or Sarr there, where all of a sudden, if they just shut down Maddison, it's going to be hard for us to break them down, I feel.
If Bissouma is out, would you consider playing Sarr in the 6? Because I would.
I would probably go with Bentancur, just because I think he's looked good in the 6 against Bayern and against Leicester. He looked all right. And he's got experience. I think he's playing pretty well at the moment. So I'd probably go with him. But look, we haven't seen Sarr on the 6, so it'll be interesting to see how he'll do that. I
think with the attributes that he has, it could work. Endless amounts of running, and I think that will stand us in good stead against this Arsenal midfield.
I worry about him.
And I feel like he can, yeah, I know what you're saying on the ball, but I think he's got it in his locker.
I worry about him with his back to play when we're playing out from goal kicks and we're playing it into Sarr, and he's got to turn out of trouble. I think Bentancur is going to be much more able to do that than someone like Sarr. Yeah. That's what I worry about.
I do feel like Bissouma is going to be vital for us in this game, though.
Yeah.
You saw the performance that he had at the Emirates at the beginning of last season. You've seen how we've started the season. He's been absolutely on fire at the start of the season, as he was the start of last season. I've always questioned his consistency and if he can do it over a long stretch. But with the form that he's in, he's going to be vital. He has to be fit.
Agreed. Naziri Mam 997 says Arsenal have injuries, but it means they'll sit back and play counter because none of their forwards are injured. What some fans see as an opportunity could also be a major issue, considering teams sit back and beat us on the counter. Their defence and attack is still solid. I do agree with that. I don't agree that what could be an opportunity could be an issue, because I think they're going to sit back regardless, and I think they're going to be more effective sitting back with Rice and Odegaard, because if they get the ball to Odegaard, he's got that vision to play a very quick pass. Without him, I know Havertz did it last year. I don't think he has anywhere near the vision Odegaard does, so I'm less worried about him doing that.
Yeah, but also I know what you're saying about sitting back, but also he's the one that leads their press every single time, Odegaard.
Yeah.
He's vital for them in that phase of play, and he wins the ball back so many times high up the pitch. I'm pretty sure he did it to us a number of times at Tottenham at the back end of last season. So that is also going to be a massive element that's going to be missing from their game.
Agreed.
He's their best presser by a mile.
Yeah, he's a really good presser. So I just think whatever they try to do, whether it be sit back or go forward, it's going to be less effective without Rice and Odegaard. So regardless of if it changes their approach, I think they're just not as strong with those two players. But it doesn't mean they're weak just because they're not as strong.
They're weaker.
Weaker, but they're not weak.
Agreed,
and
yeah.
they're still good, and they still got good players. So I don't. The last thing we should do is go into this game thinking that because they're missing Rice and Odegaard, it's now going to be an easy game, because it's far from the truth.
North London derby is never an easy game, no matter who's playing.
And Arteta's a smart coach. Whatever you want to say about him, he'll find a solution. He's good at changing things and finding solutions to problems. Yes, I know. You know, when big players are injured like Saliba, they've struggled to deal with it sometimes. But they, especially because it's only a one-off game in terms of Rice missing, I'm sure he'll come up with a solution that will make them not just as effective, but effective enough to get a result in this game. So we need to be wary of that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like, if Spurs can just nick an early goal here, that will put Arsenal's game plan completely out the window.
100%, because imagine them 1-0 down and then they're relying on Partey and Jorginho and Havertz in the middle to get them back in the game. Then they're in trouble. But if they go 1-0 up and they're relying on them to sit back,
yeah, if it's 1-0 up, it could cause trouble for us.
That's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
If we break their rear guard and get an early goal, I think that could be so important to their game plan.
100%. I think the first goal is so important in this game.
In the middle. That's why I want it. Get that early goal. Really put it on them and be brave.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Well, that is us reacting to the comments